Hello and thanks for watching. In this video, I'll be taking property level cash flows and dropping them into the portfolio valuation model. So the first step is I'll download the most recent version of the portfolio valuation model, in this case, version 3.0. And then I'm just going to take it, I'm going to make a copy of it. And then I'll save the template just to a safe spot on my desktop. Now I have this copy, and I'm going to rename the copy to whatever the name of my portfolio is, which in this case is a hypothetical acre capital portfolio 1. Also, I need to have modeled the operating cash flows for the assets that I'll be including in this portfolio. And you have a few options for how you do that. The first is you use your non-Excel based solutions that exist out there. Argus, Valuate, Estate Master is one of those. Or you do the modeling yourself in your own Excel file, or you can use one of our DCFs. What's important is that you model the same number or the same analysis period in terms of length, that your analysis start date is the same across each property, and that you're modeling to what I call cash flow from operations, which is net operating income minus capital expenditures. So you'll need to model net operating income line, capital expenditures line to arrive at that cash flow from operation. And so with those property level cash flows and your portfolio valuation model, we can go ahead and get started. So I open this up. The first thing I'll do is enable editing. It drops me on the versions tab so you can see any changes in the model you're using compared to the model I'm using currently. Next, I'll move to the portfolio summary tab. I'll just name my portfolio, set my analysis start date, and again, this start date must match this start date for each of your properties, and they all must be the same, right? We want to make sure that each cash flows are lining up exactly. We also want to make sure our analysis periods are the same across each property. In this case, I'm saying 10 years. You also need to make sure that your analysis at least rolls up to annual period. The last assumptions on the portfolio summary tab we'll come back to. They're high level, portfolio level valuation assumptions. They're not done at a property level, so either it will be, each one of these will be a weighted average across the properties or just some approximation. But anyway, we finish our portfolio summary. For now, we move to property assumptions, and it's here where we begin to drop in the details for each of our properties. Now I have 3 properties. Each has been done in a different model, and I did that on purpose so you can see how it doesn't really matter what model you use, so long as you are doing annual net operating income, annual capital expenditures, and arriving at that annual cash flow from operation. So I'll start with what I'm calling here apartment number 1, and this I use my apartment acquisition model. Okay, so this property here is called Serrano Village. So I enter that here. And it's located, it's a hypothetical, but it's located in Phoenix, Arizona. The net rentable area is calculated by taking the sum product of square feet and units. And your model may already calculate, and you'll see that in the next model, what the net rentable area is. If it's not, it's a simple sum product calculation. Now, I get to my first important point, and that is anytime we're copying from one workbook to another, ensure that you are copying as values. Okay, and so what we do is we hit a Control-C on where we're copying from the property level workbook. Now I come here, I'm going to right click and select as paste values. Okay, or we can use the keyboard shortcut Alt-H VV. All right, next our occupancy in this case is 93%, and then it asks for price. Okay, and again I come back to here, my property summary and I look, what was the purchase price? 7323. So again, I Control C, come back here, Alt HVV. Next, acquisition cost. So above the price, was there some acquisition costs involved with this? And here, what I want to check is that my purchase price first doesn't include acquisition cost, which it doesn't. And that, in this case, it was 1%. So I just come back and yep, 1%. Next, I get into my financing assumptions. So I come back here and I look, 425 interest rate, no interest only, 30 years of AM, 10-year term with a 1% lender fee, and my loan to value is 67.28. So let's just do this, 425, no IO, 30-year AM, 10-year term. LTV is copy, come back, Alt HVV, oops. I lost my copy, I'm gonna come back, Control C, Alt HVV, okay. And then finally, is there any upfront CapEx? And really what this column is a less sophisticated way of either modeling value add opportunities, if there are some renovation you're going to do in the initial period, but more properly deferred maintenance, where you want to adjust the value of the property by some CapEx amount, such that you have to spend something in time zero to bring the property up to market condition. In most cases, this stays a zero, or at least in core and core plus type valuation, we're going to keep this at zero. And then finally, lender fees. I'd noticed here there's a 1% lender fee. Hit the 1%. That gives us an all-in basis, meaning the sum of our purchase price plus any acquisition cost plus those lender fees get us to 7446122, and I can confirm that here, 7446122. So that's our first property. Now, you might notice something as I'm going through this, and if you've used any of our other models or you have much experience in real estate financial modeling, you'll know blue font cells are required inputs. And this is especially important. Anytime you see a blue font, you need to look at that cell and you'll likely be changing it. And if you don't change it, you need to understand why you didn't change it. These are required inputs. Every blue font, even if I have, when I built the template, if I entered some formula in a cell and that cell has a blue font, you'll likely change it. Either you'll put a new formula in it, or you'll just hard code a value in it. Those are blue font cells. Black font cells are outputs. Those are calculations that are taking your inputs from your blue font cells, running them through some module or some basic calculation, and outputting some value. You'll also see in some of our models, and not the case here in the portfolio valuation model, but just for your information, we'll use green font cells, which are links to outputs on other tabs. And then finally, you'll see occasionally, in this case where we are using it, orange font cells. And these are optional inputs, meaning there is some formula that me as the modeler, or Michael as the creator of the model, we've put a formula here, and more than likely the formula is correct, but not always. And so it's important that you look at it and say, yeah, that makes sense, or no, I want to change that. And if you do change it, what I recommend is, if you were to say change this value, I recommend converting the font to red so that you're aware down the road that that was changed. And if you ever want to come back and put the formula back, you just simply copy from the formula next to it. Or you could go back to your template, the original file, and copy the original formula from that file into the file that you've changed, and then change the font back to this orange font. So that's the sidebar about formatting convention. Now let's move to property number 2. And in this case, I used my all-in-one model to model just a basic apartment acquisition. And this particular asset I call Big Red Building. So Big Red Building. And this is located in McGraw, Virginia. NRA here, and this is already calculated for me, is 80,000. And then Alt HVV. I lost my copy again. Okay, and this one is 95% occupied. The price here is right here. Okay, so this is my acquisition price. These are my costs, and it's 50,000. So I'm just going to copy this, and again, Alt HVV. I lost it again. Copy Alt HVV. And then my cost is 50,000 divided by that. So it's 0.35%. In terms of my debt, I'll just go and find that here. It's 475, no interest only, 10-year term, 360 a month, or 30-year AM. So what did I say? 475. No AM, 30, 10. LTV here is 65%. 9383701. 9351. So actually, it's not quite. It's 9383701 is the debt. So I just take 9383701 divided by purchase price. It's 65.23%. And then any lender fees. Let's come back here. Let's see, where do I include lender fees? Here we go. 1% or 93837. So I just take 93837, divide that by loan amount, and it's 1%. Okay, so that gives me an all-in basis of 14,530,300. So that's property number 2. I'll just go ahead and then move to my third asset, which is an office building. Now, in this case, I use my co-contributor Michael's real estate acquisition model. It's for office, retail, industrial type properties. I'm using it to show that while this is a model I'm not as familiar with because I didn't build, it should have, or it will have, the inputs that I need to drop my property level cash flows into the portfolio valuation model. So the first thing, he's calling it Terrapin Station Center. Now you notice if we want to add a new property, all we do is in the cell immediately below the property name of the most recent property that we entered, you just simply enter a value, enter value, and it will automatically create a property for us. Okay. And so we did that, and this is in Philadelphia. Net rentable area is 50,000. I'm just going to call this 92% occupied. Purchase price is 11 million. Okay. He's assuming 3% in closing cost, and that would be inclusive, I would imagine, of my lender fees. But maybe not. Actually, there's an additional 34,134 in what he's calling here points. So there are also lender fees, but we have 3% in acquisition costs. My interest rate, 4% and 65% loan to value loan. So 4% here. 65 gives us 7170. Is that? No, it's not quite. So 7078500. 7078500 divided by our purchase price here. Yeah, 64.35. The term is 10 years, 30-year AM, no IO. Okay. There's no upfront CapEx. And then the lender fees, what did I say? 34,134. I just go equals 34,135 divided by the loan amount. That gives us a basis of 11,390 or 364. So with our property list complete, next we're going to move to dropping our cash flows in from each of the properties. And so as we move to the cash flow tab, you'll see the properties themselves have been added here, Serrano, Big Red, and Terrapin. And then we need to enter effective gross revenue, net operating income, and cash flow from operations. And these need to be entered, again, if so long as the analysis begin date is the same for each of our properties, and each of our properties has an annual basis cash flow. It's just a matter of copying and pasting in this case I need 11 years because year 11 is our cap year. So I'm just going to copy those 11 years of cash flow from our analysis. So let's start with Serrano Village here. That is on the annual cash flow tab. I'm first going to grab, notice 1 through 11 of my effective gross revenue. EGR, sometimes it's called effective gross income. And it's really the last line of income before moving to operating expenses. I'm going to copy this, come back, and then Alt-HVV and paste those as values. Okay. And then I'm going to do the same for net operating income and for cash flow from operation. Next, I'm going to move to Big Red. There. And I need to go to my property cash flow tab. And let's first find, here we go. I guess that's actually on the, let's see. All right, Offset tab. Here we go. Effective gross income, it's called here. I have those 11 years. Come back here. That was EGR. Next, NOI. Finally, cash flow from operation. And my first two properties are done. Lastly, we'll move to Terrapin. And let's see, where did my goal put that? Here we go. You'll see here effective gross income, year 1 through 11. Copy that. Paste it. NOI is here. And CFO is here. And interestingly enough, he didn't have a year 11 CFO, but that doesn't matter. For your reversion year, so that's the year, 1 year beyond your analysis, all we care about is what is the NOI, the forward-looking NOI beyond your analysis period that we then use to derive an exit price, a reversion value. That's the sale at the end of your analysis. Now, I recognize not all analyses include a sale at the end. But we do need some terminal value, some reversion value, what the value of your portfolio or each individual property is at the end of your analysis. And that's what that forward-looking NOI is. If you don't have a forward-looking NOI, you can either estimate one and enter it here, or you can use the last year's NOI, and that's entirely up to you and you know what you feel is the most appropriate method for that forward-looking NOI. You'll notice then that up in our roll-up, it doesn't even include EGR or CFO because they're unnecessary. We only need that NOI. And so that is, we've now completed the drop-in of our property level cash flows. So I can just go ahead and close those workbooks and see the result of my analysis. I can do that first by looking at portfolio level returns. And this then takes that roll up of your cash flows and You can look at the cash flow from each year of the sum of those properties. You can look at returns on an annual basis. You can look at unlevered IRR and equity multiple on an annual basis across your entire hold. And then again, these returns are based on some portfolio level cap rate. And right now that cap rate is driven by, and this is now coming back to our portfolio summary tab, some market cap rate at the portfolio level as of analysis begin, and then some growth rate. So every year we're going to assume a change in our cap rate, either an increase or a decrease. More likely it's going to be an increase in our cap rate because our properties are becoming more obsolete with time. And so our cap rate increases from 675 to 720 in our last year. But at the same time, net operating income is growing each year such that our sale price here, even though the cap rate is growing, the sale price also, for the most part, grows over the hold period, such that our reversion value ends up being $42.5 million, where our initial purchase is roughly $35 million. But then again, we see these orange font sales. So there may be a case where it makes sense to adjust your cap rate in a given year, maybe and most impactful in your reversion year, to drive what you ultimately have as your investor level returns. And those are done then at the investor level returns tab. And there are some inputs here, and you can go to my basic walkthrough of the model. But I'm going to mention a few things because in this latest version, there's been some additions. The first is you can now model either an IRR or an equity multiple hurdle. Okay, you see that in that toggle. Also down here, we've added sponsor level cash flows, or I should say sponsor level fees. So if the sponsor's charging an asset management fee, acquisition, disposition fee, or some other fees at any point in time over the analysis period, you can model for those cash flows here, such that based on this waterfall promote structure and the overall waterfall, we get sponsor and limited partner returns. And so that's how you drop property level cash flows into the portfolio level model. Let me know if you have any questions, and thanks for your time.